Hey, 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 welcome back to the English Coffee Talk Show. I'm Eva, and as always, I am so happy you're here with us today.
And I'm James. Welcome, welcome. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, get comfortable because today's episode is a good one, like genuinely a really good one.
It really is. Okay, but first, James, can we just talk about this weather for a second? Because I walked outside this morning and I was not prepared.
Oh, the autumn air hit different today, right? It was brisk out there.
Brisk, yes. Okay, that's actually a perfect word, brisk. So for our listeners, brisk means the air is cold and a little sharp, but in a refreshing way, like it wakes you up. It's not freezing, it's not brutal, it's just brisk.
Exactly. And then there's crisp, which is similar. A crisp autumn morning. You might hear people say the air feels crisp. It suggests that clean, cool, slightly dry quality, like biting into a fresh apple.
Oh, I love that comparison. Crisp like an apple. And speaking of autumn vocabulary, cozy is an interesting one too.
Oh, definitely one that catches people off guard.
Right. Cozy isn't really for outside weather. It describes warmth and comfort, usually indoors. A cozy coffee shop, a cozy blanket, a cozy little apartment. You wouldn't say it's cozy outside. That's just not how it's used.
Right. Cozy is the vibe you get once you come inside from the brisk air. The heat wraps around you, soft music playing, that's cozy.
Yes, and speaking of coffee shops, I finally found the spot. Deep armchairs, fogged up windows, and I just want to hunker down there all day.
Ooh, hunker down. Great phrase. It means to settle into a place and stay there, often because the weather outside is unpleasant. It's cold and rainy. I'm just going to hunker down at home today. Very common in autumn and winter.
I love that. Hunker down. And there's also snug, right? Which I think is like a cozier version of cozy.
Yes, snug is like extra cozy, being tucked in tightly and comfortably, a snug little corner of a cafe, or a snug winter jacket. It has that sense of being protected from the cold outside.
Snug, cozy, crisp, brisk, hunker down. Okay, we're already learning so much, and we haven't even gotten to the main topic yet.
Which is perfect because today's topic is honestly one of my favorites. We are talking about Boston cuisine, food from Boston, Massachusetts, one of the oldest and most fascinating cities in America.
Oh, yes. And I should say, James is a total foodie, so I am very ready to learn from him today. A foodie, by the way, is just a person who really loves food and is very enthusiastic about trying different foods and restaurants.
Guilty as charged? I will talk about food for hours if you let me. Okay, let's get into it. We are starting with the most iconic Boston food of all time, clam chowder.
Clam chowder. Okay, so first, for listeners who don't know, what is a clam and what is chowder?
Great question. A clam is a shellfish that lives in the ocean inside two hard shells. And chowder is a type of thick, rich soup. So clam chowder is a creamy, thick soup made with clams, potatoes, onions, and cream. A New England classic.
And you said creamy. That's one of our vocabulary words for today, right?
Yes, creamy means a smooth, rich texture, usually because it contains cream, butter, or milk. Creamy mashed potatoes, a creamy pasta sauce. The opposite is brothy, mostly liquid, like a light, clear soup. Manhattan clam chowder is brothy and tomato-based, but New England style, the Boston way, is creamy, much richer.
Okay, so creamy versus brothy. Got it. What other texture words should we know for this soup?
Good ones. Thick means the soup has density, heavy, and substantial, not watery. Velvety means incredibly smooth, almost like silk. Absolutely no lumps. Hearty means filling and satisfying. It takes care of you. And chunky means the soup has visible, sizable pieces in it, big chunks of potato or clam.
Thick, velvety, hearty, chunky. Love those. And you have a story about this, right? Your first bowl of New England clam chowder?
Oh man, yes. So I had just arrived in Boston for the first time in early November. The wind off the harbor cut straight through your jacket. I was freezing, fingers numb, genuinely miserable. And a local older gentleman saw me shivering and said, "You need a bowl of chowder, kid." Not chowder, chowder, that's the Boston accent. And he pointed me toward this tiny little restaurant tucked between two buildings.
And it worked.
It completely worked. The restaurant was tiny and warm, tucked between two buildings. I found a seat and ordered the chowder. The whole place smelled incredible.
Wait, so they really do say chowder, like in the movies?
They really do, especially the older locals. It's called a non-rhotic accent. The R at the end of words is dropped or softened. Park the car becomes pak the ka. Harvard becomes Harvard. And when the chowder arrived, oh my goodness, it came in a big bread bowl, a round sourdough loaf hollowed out with the soup poured inside it.
A bread bowl? That sounds incredible.
It was life-changing. Thick and velvety with chunks of soft potato and tender clam, steam rising off the top. I took the first spoonful and the warmth spread from my stomach out to my fingertips almost instantly. It was hearty in the most profound sense. Rich, slightly salty from the ocean, deeply creamy. I ate every last drop and tore off pieces of the bread bowl to soak in the leftover soup at the bottom.
Okay, that is making me so hungry. What a beautiful description.
And that brings us to a great idiom. It warms the cockles of your heart. It means something made you feel deeply content and comforted. Old-fashioned, but still used. That soup warmed the cockles of my heart.
Warms the cockles of your heart. I love that. Okay, let's move on to food number 2. I have a personal story about this one, and it involves some embarrassing miscommunication.
Oh, I cannot wait. But first, lobster rolls. Tell the listeners what a lobster roll is.
Okay, so a lobster roll is lobster meat from a large shellfish served inside a hot dog bun toasted in butter. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly delicious. The bun is golden and crispy from the butter with a generous pile of sweet, tender lobster inside.
Perfect. Key vocabulary here. Succulent means the meat is juicy, tender, and full of flavor. You'd say the lobster is succulent. It's a very appetizing word.
Succulent. And then buttery, which doesn't just mean it has butter on it, right? It also describes a texture or flavor that is rich and smooth, almost melting.
Exactly. Buttery is that melt-in-your-mouth richness. Indulgent means luxurious, a real treat, not an everyday thing. And toasted is that golden brown quality from butter and heat.
Succulent, buttery, indulgent, toasted. Beautiful. Story time. This was my second week in the United States visiting Boston with a friend who was also an ESL learner. Two confused people navigating everything together.
Ha, the blind leading the blind.
Exactly, the blind leading the blind. That's an idiom. Two people who are both inexperienced or lost are trying to guide each other, which doesn't work very well. So we found this amazing little seafood shack near the harbor, a small, informal, unpretentious place with plastic trays and paper menus, and just the freshest seafood you can imagine.
Yeah, those places are the best. No tablecloths, no fancy menus, just incredible food.
So we go inside. I want the lobster roll, but the menu says Connecticut style or Maine style, and I had no idea what the difference was. I asked the woman at the counter, and she explained it quickly. I only caught cold, mayo, warm, and butter. Butter, that's Boston for butter.
Butter. Oh, that's so Boston.
And she's saying, wicked good butter. And that's when I realized in Boston, wicked doesn't mean evil or bad. It means very or extremely. So wicked good means really, really good. Wicked cold, wicked busy. It's a classic Boston slang intensifier.
Right. Wicked is one of the most classic Boston expressions. You can use it before almost any adjective.
So I ordered the Connecticut style, the warm buttered version, and when it arrived, the bun was perfectly toasted, golden and crispy, with a massive pile of fresh, sweet lobster inside. With the warm, melted butter, it was the most indulgent thing I had ever eaten. I took the tiniest bites to make it last as long as possible.
The make it last strategy. I know it well.
And my friend kept asking, "How is it? How is it?" All I could say was, wicked good. Used it correctly on the first try. I was so proud of myself.
That is honestly the best way to learn, through immersion and genuine experience. All right, we need to talk about dessert now. Number 3 on our Boston food tour, Boston cream pie.
Boston cream pie. Okay, so here's my question. If it's called a pie, why does it look exactly like a cake?
Ah, yes, this is one of my favorite English language quirks. So, Boston cream pie is absolutely 100% a cake. 2 layers of soft sponge cake filled with thick custard cream and topped with a shiny chocolate glaze. By every definition, it's a cake.
So why is it called a pie?
Historical confusion. In the 1800s, cakes and pies were often baked in the same type of pan. The distinction wasn't as clear. Pie was used loosely for any layered baked dessert, and the name just stuck. A great example of English naming conventions being completely illogical. You just have to accept them and move on.
Accept them and move on. That is genuinely good advice for learning English. Okay, vocabulary.
Okay, so decadent, a beautiful word for rich, luxurious food that is almost sinfully indulgent. A decadent chocolate dessert. It implies it's almost too good, but in the best way. Layered means built in horizontal layers like a layer cake. Glazed means coated with a shiny, sweet outer coating, like the chocolate on top of Boston cream pie. And custard is a thick, creamy filling made from eggs, milk, and sugar, cooked until it sets.
Decadent, layered, glazed, custard. And pastry, is that a good one too? Like, what does pastry mean exactly?
Great one. Pastry can mean 2 things. 1, a type of dough made from flour and butter, used for things like croissants or tart shells. 2, more broadly, any baked sweet item, like a Danish, a cream puff, or Boston cream pie. A pastry chef specializes in baking desserts and sweet dishes.
So you have a story about this one, right? Tell me.
So the Boston cream pie was invented at the Omni Parker House Hotel in Boston back in 1856, and they still serve the original recipe today. I visited specifically to try it, and when I ordered, I made the mistake of calling it a slice of the cake. The woman behind the counter very politely corrected me. "You mean the pie?" I stared for a moment and said, "Yes, the pie." She gave me the most dignified look and said, "Excellent choice." We both knew it was a cake, but we played by the rules. Decadent. Completely and utterly decadent. The sponge was soft and light, the custard silky and barely sweet, and the chocolate glaze had a perfect glossy finish, slightly bitter to balance the sweetness. One bite and you understood exactly why this became the official state dessert of Massachusetts.
Wait, it's the official state dessert? That's amazing. Okay, I need to try this. All right, we've got one more food item, baked beans. And this one connects to Boston's most famous nickname.
Beantown, yes! Boston is nicknamed Beantown because of its long historical association with baked beans. In the colonial era, Boston was famous for its molasses trade. Molasses is a dark, thick syrup, a byproduct of making sugar, and Bostonians would slow cook beans in pots with molasses and salt pork for entire days.
So the molasses gives it that sweet quality.
Exactly. And here's a key vocabulary distinction. Savory versus sweet. Savory refers to a salty, rich, meaty flavor. Roasted chicken is savory. Cheese is savory. But baked beans are interesting because they are both savory and sweet. Savory from the beans and pork, sweet from the molasses and brown sugar. When a food has both qualities, we call it a sweet and savory profile. Very popular combination.
Ooh, sweet and savory, like a perfect balance. And what does slow cooked mean exactly?
Slow cooked means cooked at a low temperature for a long time, sometimes 4 to 8 hours. The flavors develop deeply and meld together, and tough ingredients like beans or meat become incredibly tender. The result is usually hearty and rich. The opposite would be flash fried, fast, high heat.
So baked beans need time and patience. Something poetic about that. And hearty keeps coming up. Is it just a comfort food word in general?
Yes, hearty is very much the language of comfort food. A hearty breakfast, a hearty stew, a hearty winter meal. filling, warming, satisfying. And comfort food is a great English phrase, food that makes you feel emotionally comforted, usually because it reminds you of home, childhood, or a warm, safe place.
Comfort food. I love that. Every culture has its version of comfort food. What's your ultimate comfort food, James?
Honestly, a really good bowl of clam chowder takes me right back to that little restaurant in Boston. What about you?
It's interesting that comfort food can become tied to new places, too. That lobster roll is almost a comfort food for me now. It represents arriving somewhere new and finding something wonderful.
Absolutely. And Beantown is a genuine source of regional pride. It represents something real about the city's identity and history that Bostonians are deeply connected to.
Regional pride. Great vocabulary. The feeling of being proud of where you come from, your city's culture and traditions. And speaking of Boston pride, can we do the accent one more time for fun?
Okay. Drop the R at the ends of words. Lobster becomes lobster, pock becomes pock, caw becomes caw, butter becomes butter, and throw wicked in front of anything. That lobster roll was wicked good. I'm gonna pock myself right here and eat another one.
That was wicked good, James. Wicked good. Okay, let's do our language recap before we sign off because we covered so much today.
All right, our top 3 takeaways from today. Number 1, hearty. This word is your best friend for describing warm, filling, satisfying food and meals. Hearty soup, hearty breakfast, hearty comfort food. Remember it.
Number 2, decadent. Use this when something is luxuriously rich and indulgent. A decadent dessert, a decadent meal. It has this slightly dramatic, almost guilty pleasure quality to it, which I love.
And number 3, wicked. In everyday Boston slang and increasingly in casual American English, wicked just means very or extremely. Wicked good, wicked tired, wicked excited. It's informal but incredibly fun to use.
Hearty, decadent, wicked. 3 words. Go use them today. Text a friend, leave a comment, just get them into your vocabulary.
Okay, we're getting close to the end of today's episode, but before we go, Eva, any final thoughts?
Just that food is one of the best ways to learn a language. When you tie a word to a flavor or a memory, it sticks. You won't forget succulent if you're thinking about a lobster roll, or hearty if you're imagining that first spoonful of clam chowder on a cold Boston day.
That is exactly right. Language lives in experiences. Connect words to real moments, and English will come to you naturally. Go out, eat something new, try to describe it, even if you make mistakes, especially if you make mistakes.
Yes, mistakes are how you learn. Every mistake has taught me something I never forgot. Don't be embarrassed. Every fluent English speaker you admire made 1,000 mistakes to get there.
1,000 mistakes and counting. Okay, if you enjoyed today's episode, hit subscribe wherever you're listening. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you found us so you never miss an episode.
And turn on your notifications, that little bell icon. We put out new episodes regularly, and we want you to be the first to know.
And if you want to support the show, leave us a review. It takes 60 seconds and genuinely helps other ESL learners find us.
And to every listener who is learning English, we see you. Some days it feels impossible. Those days are completely normal. But the fact that you're here, actively engaging with the language, that is something brave.
Keep going. Stay curious. Eat some good food. And we will see you right back here next time on the English Coffee Talk Show.
Bye, everyone. This was wicked good. See you next time.